What are you going to wish for? I don't know. Then there will be no Fantasia anymore. How many wishes do I get? As many as you want. And the more wishes you make, the more magnificent Fantasia will become. Really? Try it. And my first wish is...
Well, f***ing leave it up to a f***ing teenager to break a tactical flashlight. Okay, welcome back to the series. This is episode 7.2, the third video of this saucer section of this big hole Enterprise Refit 1350 polar lights. Definitely not perfect grade model with flaws and everything else and extra cheese. From where we last left off in the video, I forgot, so go look back for yourself because I ain't going to go ahead and tell you. But I can tell you what I've done so far in between that video and to right now. This lower planetary sensor dome is glued in, and I had to do some putty work, obviously, and you're probably going to have to as well, around where it meets. The fitment was really pretty good, but it was just like really a hair gap in there, which obviously is going to cause light leaks. So I used my plastic, and mushed it in and got myself, a cheap old paintbrush and wet that down and just kind of cleaned it up and worked it up. But it was still, it still wasn't perfect enough, even though it says perfect, but it wasn't that perfect. So what I did here is I actually used some of the spray fill that I plan on using around here, which we're going to be doing in this video. I just masked off my, my lights in here, because they're kind of already painted, but they got a little bit of residue on here, so they're going to need a little touch up. So I masked it off in here and went ahead and did a couple light coats just in here and a little fine sanding, and actually it worked out. I hit the camera. Worked out pretty well, other than I'm keeping my masking tape in here because there's going to be some more work that has to be done, so might as well just keep them protected. Now, if I've had many coats of whatever just on here, I don't know why I did it, but I did it anyways. I went ahead and, light blocked also the outside of this. Of course, the adhesion promoter, the light blocking. I did the base coat and I sealed it with clear just so I can paint over it again. Don't ask me why I did it. It was actually kind of unnecessary, but I did it anyways. One thing I will point out, if you're going to be doing something like this, especially with the spray fill and anything else, you have these little fine grid detail in here. Now, I say it's, you want to try and preserve it, because with all this coats of everything, eventually you're going to bury these very fine grid detail in it. But you can either mask them off in the beginning or some other place, what I did was, because I just kind of noticed that as I'm going through all this, I just went ahead and take my little knife and just, you know, kind of gently cleaned it all out, and any of the little pieces just, you know, brush out, all good to go, just in case, you know. Or you could probably like brain farted this and you're like, holy shit. Well, that's what you can do in case you kind of bury that too much and you want to bring it back. So anyways, oh yeah, as I'm seeing it right now, something I noticed on the kit part, after I put my gray adhesion promoter on it, it kind of brought out, it looks like imperfections into the plastic, like wherever there's all these grid details, like in the middle, there appears to be like little ripples in it. I don't know, you might, yeah, can you see all the ripples in between the grids? That's in the plastic itself, and it didn't really show up until I put a coat of something on it. So anyways, it's very fine, so I would say, you know, you can knock it down a little bit with some very fine grit sandpaper. Since I'm doing the spray fill, I'm actually gonna let some of the overspray go on it and just kind of deal with that as well. And I'll probably be pretty sure it'll probably be on the upper saucer too. But just keep in mind, you know, on this, it's not the end of the world. You know, I'm rubbing my finger across it. I don't really feel it, but I sure do see it. So, but then again, you know, it's a light coat of everything on here, so you have contrasting colors, which kind of brings out stuff instead of when you have an even color of a base coat or something. So, anyways, where we're at now is one of the fun parts, and that is we are going to join both halves of the saucer and make it one. Of course, before you do this, go through everything, look everything over, because once you seal this thing, you know, it's the point of no return. Make sure you have no debris in here. Yeah, I got like little marks in there, but that doesn't mean of course, make sure your glue points are all cleaned. I went ahead and cut off the tabs above here, because the reason why is because what I hear is around from other people with their builds is that these are not perfectly spaced where they should be, and they're usually quite tight. So I just went ahead and removed them. They'll sit on here, but it gives me that little wiggle room so I can actually line it all up and seal it that way. If you have glue on here, it's going to hold it very well, as long as you clean off all your paint and whatever, scrape it off. I like to use, you know, my hobby knife, just take it around, scrape it. Even the back side of it would do. Just get it all back down to plastic on both sides of your saucer. You know, plug in your stuff one last time, make sure it works good, make sure your voltage is set right so you don't blow shit up. So did the same thing with the upper half, which is now on the bottom. Already went ahead, made sure all my lighting is still work, because this is going to be the point of no return. Make sure all your glue points here is all really good, and test fit. Just put it on here, test it, see what you're going to do, which I did my test fit, and I noticed I'm going to have an issue when I get to the back, because as everything lines up, this is just off of here, so I know I'm going to have to do just a little squeezing, so that means I'm going to need a lot of tape. So let's get a better stand ready, because I'm going to need this one. Let's keep that off to the side. This is like kind of like heart surgery. So now I guess we're going to go ahead and actually do this major step in the build. Joining these two is a major step. So all I'm going to do is, see, no point of gluing these up because they're painted on there, and I mean, you can if you want, but I'm not going to. But this part's going to be a little bit tedious because it's the whole edge of this damn saucer. And, you know, there's nothing I could do about any glue that goes over on the outside other than clean it up afterwards, because this is just a thin line put it on. Now on the bottom part of the saucer, it's actually wider. You could do this on, but I would have if I was going to actually set it, like if I was going to have the bottom piece gluing and this on top. In other words, I want to be able to see my seam better, and just doing it with gluing this one makes that part more better. But kind of wish this edge was thicker as the bottom saucer, but on this part. And of course, doing this with model glue, you know, buys me some time. There's a little chunk of paint scrapage. Just get that off the edge. All right, here we go. Now we're going to have to start feeding wires out. Let me get this one with a little hole. What I can do is I can do this like this. Start with the longer ones first. I can do it like this. Oh, burpee. This one's through there. This is the main power. Now this one is everything else. Now time to start pulling everything through. Okay. Okay. Now, you have enough wire through there I can work with. Now, it's about lining this whole thing up. I'm using a little bit of a seam that I have, you know, from the exact center of the saucer, and just eyeball lining it with the navigation light. I'm gonna make this nice and tight. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna work my way around this, like one way to the other. There will be glue cleaning, so just be prepared for that. Yeah, that damn fly keeps coming back. How long do they live? I think I'm 3 months into this build here in my time. And that one damn fly sure likes to come back and visit me often during this thing. Space a little bit in this guy. And any cracking sounds if you're hearing, I know I am, it's what it is my polystyrene strips that are in front of the windows. It's just it kind of being pushed around in place. So nothing really to worry about. I'm not breaking the model. Main thing I'm breaking is my heart. Yeah, as you can start seeing some weirdness happening going on over here. Like it wants to push out, so this one I'm gonna have to manipulate. And let me tell you something, boy, they weren't kidding about trying to preserve this sensor band. Is next to impossible. I even may want to be, I'm probably going to change up my plan and idea on them. Especially after, you know, trying to clean up the seam here from putting both of these on. See if I can get any more of these wires out, just make sure they don't adhere too much. I'm gonna have to give this a little bit of pressure. I have a feeling I'm gonna be doing some serious putty work back here. Don't ask me why. But yeah, like I said, you know, test fit and you'll see whatever you got coming. It's almost like the model stretched itself. But if I have to bury it somewhere, I'd rather bury it back towards the neck or make it even harder and harder and harder to see. Here, let me just try to get this right here in front of the window. Oh yeah, some serious putty work's happening on the back. As you can see, got one heck of a step here, but most of the saucer is pretty much lined up. Get this guy down here. And you see where my next fun job is fixing this step here. See, make sure it's not going underneath it. That's why this model is not perfect grade. What I'm probably going to see in the future, though, might become a dilemma. But of course, it's only plastic. Things can be modified, shaped, and fixed. Is when it comes to joining the neck to this, because on how much this sticking out, you might have to do some little modification. You know, that's what fillers and all this other stuff is for. You can cheat it. Scribes can make new panel lines. But God, I'm forcing this pretty hard here, and that's fine, and that's kind of like whatever. But my whole edge of it is all pretty good. It's all looking good. Just this back end, not thrilled about. I don't know when and where it happened, or just the kit itself. At least right here would be the best place to do it. because I can hide that even easier. I'll make sure it's not like this pushing in. No. I like to say so, but I don't think so. Get a little love. I don't know how much I can hold on to that. Not without a clamp, but I don't want to put a clamp on this, leaves marks. I may have to just say, hey, that's where it's at. Other than I can heat the plastic, but no, won't do that. So, obviously, I have to stop from here because this has to dry and set up. And for how much tension this thing is on, I think I'm just going to just wait for it to fully dry. At least 24 hours. And then start working on the sensor band, and of course I'm going to have to do some extra work right here and just get this thing ready and all spruced up for the base coat. But of course there's a lot of work to do before base coat. Oh, but at least I got my wiring through here, which is great, and some test fit into the other pieces. We're getting close to actually to the paint video, even though we're in the start of this video. Okay, it's time for a time warp. You're going into the future. I'm going to wait a while and sweat my nuts off. Well, wasn't that fast? Okay. From now that the glue is already dried and already removed the tape, I already went ahead and fixed my issues at the back end. Check it out with my putty work. I mean, you really can't, other than the color of the putty and all that other stuff, that was one hell of a fix. But it wasn't really difficult. The reason why it wasn't difficult, where it looked like it should have been difficult, is because I have auto body experience. I know how to use Bondo. I know how to shape body lines. So, but what does that have to do with scale modeling? Well, putties and fillers are the same thing as basically Bondo. The technique is the same, other than doing something from very large to a very small scale. The technique is the same. So I'm going to actually, not only I'm going to describe on how I was able to fix this and make it look totally legit, but I want to actually kind of tell you, actually more like give you like a little 101 on, you know, how to shape using stuff like this, and without wasting too much of the stuff and a lot of time. I don't know if any of you that actually, well, some of you may even actually know on how to do it the same way I'm going to describe it, but for some of you that don't, I mean, from what you saw, and if you were going to do this, I don't know, some of you, some people out there will just put it on, let it all dry, and just start sanding away, sanding away, sanding away. You really kind of don't want to do that. What you want to do is not only you want to put a little bit more than what you think you're going to need. Sometimes it doesn't really work out that way. To me, I had to do this like kind of like in 3 fills. Well, 3 filler jobs. But what you got to think about, this method generally works with almost any type of shaping, but I'm going to use this for an example. There are 2 real curves here. Not really curves. There are 2 surfaces. You have this flat surface here, and you have this angled surface here. Don't mind the curve right now. Basically, you have something like this. So what you want to do is you want to apply a lot of your putty, and this is when a sanding block is kind of a must. Sanding sticks will probably work, but you know, I love sanding blocks. So what you want to do is you want to pick an edge. Doesn't matter which one, but you need to pick an edge and start with one at a time. The edge I chose was this flat edge right here. So what you do is you just start, planing it with this edge here. So and so and so. I don't have any paper on here because it's already done. After, and the way you can tell you've either how you don't need, where pretty much where you need to go, and you'll see if you have enough or if you don't have enough putty, that is. If you do have enough putty, as you're sanding here, you'll probably even have some type of paint or something that was already on it that you're sanding away. Obviously, the edge of the saucer here is got a rolled curve. So your filler is going to meet up to it, and it's pretty much going to make a even line from the layer of paint to the plastic to the edge of the putty. It's going to be uniform. It's not going to be really wavy with dips, all that other stuff, if you have enough putty. If you don't have enough putty and you're working with this, is when you'll start seeing like a dip, and then it'll go back up because you're leveling the putty surface with this, but if you don't have enough putty, there's going to be a low spot, a void. So that's where you'll know that spot you're going to need to add some more filler. Now, whether you got this done or not, well, you'll know because if you have enough putty, you've got a nice line where it meets up. Example, like here, you'll have a nice line because it actually, where it starts dropping down, the putty went to here. So no matter how much I keep sanding down, it's going to stay like that. It's going to stay together. There's going to be none of that. And like I say, you don't have enough putty, you need to fill in that low spot. Then you need to work on the other edge. This edge, same method. Sand it either this way or this way. Try not to go over, but you really want to match the curve. Not this rounded curve, but the angle. Now, what you should have when you have enough putty and you've done sanding this edge and that edge, your filler should be sharp you should have a sharp corner like this, like right here. If you don't, and you're still kind of curved, you'll probably need more putty, probably. But you really want to get to here. Just think about that. After you get to that point, then you can work on your beveled curve. You can that where it takes a little bit of just light sanding, and carefully rolling and just kind of looking at it, and you'll get pretty close, if not dead on. But yeah, and for something like this, because you have a detail here, take a piece of masking tape or whatever and just put it right on the edge that you're going to. Of course, I had to do it here because I didn't want any, I still have detail here that I want to monkey with. And if you don't have any detail, you don't really have to worry about putting a piece of tape. Just sand it together. And tape is a good way to actually recreate shapes and, like I say, body lines. For an example, I know this is a model and I'm about to talk about automotive. If you have a fender and you have that one little sharp curve like right above the wheel, tends to be where the wheel flares, and let's say you have like a small little dent, well, of course, with any filler like Bondos and even this stuff here, you really want to try to use less as possible. Don't be cheap, and believe me, I'm not like one of those guys that puts like thick mounts of Bondo and that stuff. No more than 1/8 of an inch. That's my rule. But let's say you have a line that you need to recreate because a dent is like right, that was into that body line. So what you would do is you would match the curve by using a piece of tape, put it on like either the top or the bottom of the line. After, of course, you already have your filler on there. Sand, one side to the tape, pull the tape off, flip it over to the upper side, sand the other side to it, keep going back and forth, and you've recreated a perfect panel line or body line. Kind of the same method like this. You really want to go to one edge first, then to another edge, and then just do your fine detail. Now, enough of my little bullshit about, you know, how I fix that problem that I'm so fucking proud of. So the next thing that needs to be done is to actually start working on this edge here. And I gotta admit that now I really kind of understand why, you know, they say it's really kind of next to impossible to really save this sensor band detail, even though I was hell bent on doing it. But yeah, I can see how hard it is and almost next to impossible. I swear, if anybody else knows how to actually do it, please make a video, or at least tell me exactly in detail how you did it in my comment section. And maybe if I build another one of these, I will try that. But obviously I did the best I could, but I think I'm just going to go to a plan B. My sensor bands are not destroyed, so don't think like, oh no, you kind of screwed up. It's just pretty much just where they join together. It's just kind of a pain in the butt, and especially when you're trying to fix the lip where your saucer goes together, it's like, because this kit is not a perfect grade, which is why this didn't fit that great. You're going to have a little hairline steps here or there, or dips, and you're just going to have to sand it down, which I already went ahead and did my edge with just 320. I didn't have to use any filler anywhere else around here except just for back here, because I kept it, you know, literally right to the edge as possible. But there's every little soffit, there's just a hair bit over and a hair bit under. It's just easy enough just to take some 320 and just kind of sand that lip, but it affects the upper part of the sensor band in some places. So even though I do have my plan of using the spray fill and some, you know, fine line masking tape, so that's pretty much where is the next thing that is going to need to be done, is that I'm going to have to go ahead and mask all these windows, plug in all the holes for my RCS thrusters and navigational lights, throw on my fine line tape around where the sensor band is at first, and do some and just kind of clean up the edge, my saucer with some wax degreaser, and just make sure it's all good for painting. Like right here, I have a little bit of putty from somewhere. And then just kind of get this ready for some spray fill. So I'm just going to go ahead and do a bunch of masking off camera. I think I'll do that off camera because this is going to take a long time for this detail type of masking. So as I come back in a couple seconds, you're going to see a bunch of masking tape. Well, anyways, if you're like me, you're 5'10", you're making a YouTube video on how to build an enterprise refit, and in the process, you're listening to a lot of Lamb of God. So I have the saucer all masked up, windows and everything. The only thing really left to do is, before we put the base coat on, is something I almost forgot. Actually, there's two things left to do. One is, before base coat, I need to plug up my navigation lights and my RCS thrusters, because right now they're not filled in with anything. What I'm using are these they're almost like rubber, little cone-shaped plugs. What they are is, in my industry, in paint and powder coat, we use these things to plug anything that has like a threaded hole, because you don't want to powder coat anything that has threads, because then you have to re-tap it. Something like this is what we use for like a fine hole, and just a, you know, so that way no paint or powder coat could get into it. Well, I have quite a few of these, and we use these things, and we have them in many shapes and sizes, and some things even for threads that stick out. This I just have just for this build itself. By the way, these come from a manufacturer known as Argon USA. Maybe try looking them up. I can't tell you how much they cost. My shop orders them for whatever we need, and we have like hundreds of thousands of these things lying around. But it's good for, like, hey, if you want to plug a hole to something like this, go ahead, because it's just like that. You know, it ain't gonna go nowhere. And if you know anything about powder coat, it's a bake-on process, which means these little things here can withstand over 400 degrees. God knows what you need 400 degrees on this for. I don't know. Well, anyways, that's one thing. I'm going to end up plugging all that at the very end, but there's one more thing still left to do that I almost forgot. Is need to make these little tiny domes for the phaser emitters that I took off back in the beginning. I decided that I'm actually going to solar-res them with solar-res. And the way I'm going to go about it is I'm going to take just a little bit that's in this cap here, like I'll unscrew it, just set this off to the side somewhere where it won't tip over. And down in here, I have just a little bit of it, which is all I need. So I'm going to take, my pick, just the tip of this. You could probably get away with a thin piece of stiff wire or a toothpick or something, a needle, whatever. And you just kind of want to get like a drop of it just on there. And for me, because I made these little holes, all I got to do is just dab it in there, and there it is. And those little holes gives it something a little more to anchor to. And if you don't have enough, just get a little bit on, and there you go. And now we'll hit it. In fact, I'll let that sit here for a second while I put my cap back on. Okay, take that back off. Yep, it's already hardened. And now I got little phaser emitters. So I'm going to do my phaser emitters. I'm going to plug up all my holes, and then we're going to get ready to actually finally do some paint. Oh yeah, I got to actually do some, clean, the prep. And so anyways, phaser emitters, plug holes, and then we're going to my paint booth. As promised, we're at the spray booth. So, of course, I mention this all the time on what I do, so I figured I'd do it again for literally the last beginning phases of the base coat. The saucer is all masked. It's all been plugged where I don't have any type of windows or solar resin yet, except for here. Here are the two nav lights. These holes are very small, so what I did was I just used a little bit of Elmer's glue, because you could just pick that right out, and then afterwards I'll fill that in after the main portion of the painting is done. It's already been degreased and cleaned, so I need to put down some adhesion promoter. And for this, I'm using this Bulldog adhesion promoter. It's not clear, of course, it's gray. This stuff is expensive compared to this stuff, like $11, $35. But I got this free from work, so that's why I'm using it. Honestly, as far as quality-wise, compared to the two, actually, I think the Bulldog is better. It actually tends to bond better and makes the paint also bond, to this. So, time to actually start laying down. Time to turn on my fan. good shape. And don't need to put too much, it's just basically a light coat, that's all you need. I'm actually getting low on this stuff, but it's just enough to finish the saucer, which is basically everything. So go ahead and start working around. A little chunk of something that I can get that later. Turning it because, you know, if you spray this when you have something sticking up, you'll get a shadow. Kind of deal with that. I'll kind of get the edge. Window spot got cleaned up. Okay, I'm gonna let this set up. Then I'll flip it over and do the other side. This actually sets up pretty quick, probably about 20 minutes. It'll be safe to do it. Let me turn my fan off in case you can't hear me. Yeah, 20 minutes, flip it over. I'll go ahead and spray the other side. But what you'll see is it right back to here, and we'll be dealing with the sensor band, starting with using with this stuff. I think the adhesion promoter is now dry enough to work with. Time for the filler prime. I'm mainly going to be using it on the sensor band area. Basically because I don't have this hanging yet. Because primarily this is for the sensor band. What I'm going to do first is the bottom side, like doing it with the bottom side up, because the bevel is more in line to my direction because it's at an angle, it's not, you know, straight. So I'll do one light coat this way, then I'll flip it, and I'll do another light coat the opposite way. Okay. Let's start. Okay. I lost the plug somewhere. I think on the bottom. Let me see. I can't find it yet. For my little protective piece. Ah, that's where it came from. Where'd it go? And a plug for this guy up here. So again, some more filler prime. And I want to put a little bit around my bridge area, just because of all that putty work around here, just so I can see how it looks. Oops, sorry for the little bump. I mean, I can already see I have a little extra work to do over there, but I'm not trying to fill in where I have like a lot of massive detail like on the bridge itself. just taking a look where I think a little bit of filler prime can actually benefit. Probably also right here on the side of the impulse engine. Okay. So now I'm going to let my filler prime dry for about a few hours. Usually this stuff actually dries pretty quick. May even wait a little bit longer. I got shit to do anyways. And then after that, just kind of go through, look through just to see if there's any more additional putty work that could be needed. Because it's good to kind of, coat it with something even. Because when you have contrasting colors like the light block in black, the original model color, base coat of white, anywhere in between in different places, it's kind of hard to see, like the exact details. But when you get it down to one color, you can actually, it almost looks like on how the finished product's gonna look. So it's a good idea to address extra stuff like a little more sand and a little more putty and or whatever until we get down to the actual base coat. So that would be the next step after this dries, is some look over and a little extra detail work. So now it needs an undercoat of filler primer. But now what I did is I unmasked the sensor bands after putting up before I unmasked it, I put another coat of the filler prime on it just to build it up a little bit. Now I unmasked it, and we're just going to put another coat on the edge. And also, just to show for the heck of it, did some extra work around the BC deck and the bridge area. Like I say, when you start making this thing a uniform color, you can start seeing the other imperfections on what extra work that needs to be done. So I kind of took care of that. So right now, time to put the fan on. And I'm just going to put one simple, easy coat just on the band itself. And that should be it. Give it another extra pass for a little lighter. So this is what it looks like. So the only thing left to do is, after this thing dries, it's just to go ahead and do its final sanding, smooth around the bands, around the edge itself, and just smooth it all out with probably some 400 to 800, and get it ready for the base coat, and make sure everything is ready for the base coat. And hopefully I've already took care of any putty filling or any shaping. Basically I kind of already did, so, but just to make sure, this is kind of like getting to the critical phase, because once I get this base coat on here, and the final base coat will be actually really just starting on the majority of the paint process, because the next time any pieces go together is actually starting putting each section together along with the wiring. So we're getting close, getting very, very close. So Now we're at the last bit of spray fill and it's dried enough to prep. So far this is how the sensor band is looking. It needs just a little bit of fine sanding, not too much. I really do like how it came out. But it's just a little rough around the edges, so basically just the time for a little bit of cleaning up to do. I'm going to start with actually 400 grit, but I'm just going to go around the sensor band, but kind of lightly, just to kind of, you know, knock off any little roughness. I don't want to lose my grooves though, so that's why I'm just kind of being a little extra careful. Just to make it soft, just literally like that. Yeah, and I'm going to actually do the same thing with the overspray that's got on the surface. Just take the 400, just lightly, just go over it. I'm not trying to shape or anything. I'm just dealing with overspray, really. Trying to get a little bit of some detail areas over here. Yeah, just very light pressure. And also pay attention as you're sanding over, you know, your phaser emitters here. Mine kind of just flattened a little bit, which I'm okay with. I mean, if I want to add on later or now, like just a tiny bit of solar res, just to give it a nipple, but nah, I think it's fine. Okay, do the other side. I'm just, like I said, I'm just dealing with the overspray. That's it. I'm not trying to shape. Trying not to go too deep because I don't want really aggressive 400 grit sanding scratches. This will just make the next step easier, which I'll be using 800 grit. Got a little bit around my center dome, even though it actually feels pretty good. Try to get in some of these little corners if I can. I mean, after all, when you start layering paint on it, it'll kind of flatten the stuff out a little, but you know, your best work when it comes to paint is all in the prep. The better prep you have, the better paint job you'll get. See a little bit of roughness on the curve, especially over here where I had to do that major repair. Now my sensor band detail here is not like how I wish it could have been, but it'll be okay after either paint or decal, whichever method that I choose to use on this part. Okay. Give it a look-see. I think I need a little more repair, well, a little more detail sanding just around my little detail area over here. So I can see a little high and lows, little like empty spots. Same thing around here. May actually have to scribe a little. Some of it I am going to have to scribe a little bit, it looks like. Let's see. Yeah. See, what I'm looking at is my sensor band, like right here. It's almost gone, but I'm going to have to actually, I kind of like put some type of panel line in there. Do it with back end. Somebody was with my knife here. The tip is gone. But it's tricky because you may want to jump. I can sand that. If it jumps out a little bit, it's okay because you can sand that out. But still, like, try the best you can to not get any word jumps. I mean, if you're unsure on doing this freehander like I'm doing, you can always throw down a piece of tape as a guideline and just trace along that. Then lightly sand there, gave me a line there so I can see it later. Do it over here too. This one is going to be very tricky because it really wants to jump. And I see it. I see where it once was. I'm not trying to recreate everything perfectly. I'm just trying to give me an upper edge to know exactly where I gotta recreate this sensor band. And there's no joke, these sensor bands are a bitch to deal with. Better, better, better. I can use a little tension. So right here, it just kind of sucks a little. Trying to recreate this back one right here a little bit by just kind of tracing along and carving, digging out some of the spray fill. Little jump, so I gotta sink. There we go. One of the things I definitely have to do is kind of clean up around these RCS thrusters. Even though I could probably see it, you just, as part of it gets decaled and painted, you know, that will kind of do that too, but kind of makes it easier to see. That one's actually pretty good. That one's pretty good. And that one's pretty good. Okay, now I'm going to have to go over this with some 800. Just to smooth out from 400. Now you know when this primer is good and dry when it's looking like this and not like that. If you ever sand and paint or something else painted and you start getting stuff like that, it means your paint's not cured yet. It should be powdery like that. Just letting you know. More on the sensor band because of the 800. All right. some detail work. On the impulse engine. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and get this prepped for paint because I think it's pretty much there. So I'm going to blow this thing off with some compressed air. I'm going to tack rag it, replug all my holes, and get it all totally cleaned up. And so hopefully it will be perfect for the base coat, but we'll find out after I put on one light coat and check it later, see if there's any more work that has to be done. We'll have the booth going. It's all prepped, ready for paint. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to do this one side at a time, which means taking this thing to dry is gonna take twice as long. And of course, with this paint, it takes forever. So in that case, you know, I'm just going to do the top half and the sensor band, try and get much as I can covered. So here we go. Make sure I'm actually set right for what I want. Put up the pen. Okay, yep. Light coat. That's all I want. I think that's light enough for me. Any more, it'll start going funky. So this thing's going to take some time to actually be dry enough to actually handle. I don't care if it says dry enough in an hour to touch or sandable in a day. That's bullshit. That stuff's like a week. So I'm going to set this aside for a few days. I'm going to put it in my paint oven, which is called my broken car out in the driveway, or more in the backyard. Plus we're going to have more warm weather, so at least it'll be another 100 degrees in the car, which will help cure this thing. Kill the fan here. So I'll come back in a few days and check this thing out. Just in case there might be a delay into the next video of the detail painting of all the other parts. The other thing I got to think about doing is also the base. So Yeah, that's basically what it is to actually, for me to base coat this thing, is a light coat, check it, possibly do the other side, you know, until it's all done. So yeah, so until the next cutscene would be just more white paint, but that's going to take some days for me. Now it's the next day. Brought me a couple specialty hooks so I can actually hang this thing and actually kind of do the whole thing. But at least I got to get the bottom this time. So another light coat for the model. Give it more on the sensor band on this side. Just around the impulse engine. Now, plenty around the sensory dome except for there. So it's just hey, that's enough for that side. Let's take a look at this side just for the heck of it. Looks pretty good other than a little bit of dirt from handling it, so I'm going to go ahead and do it that. That's what sucks when it's not fully cured. You'll leave a mark just by looking at it. But at least it just takes another light coat. So it's just another light coat over the whole thing. Okay, so I'm going to let this thing literally dry. And oh wow, we'll have to clean that up. Somebody made little cobwebs. Well, that's a cleanup anyways. So anyways, going to let this thing dry for a few days in the hot car. Take a look at it, probably do a little bit of fine sanding in some places where it would need to be. Obviously, I didn't notice that little bugger made some cobwebs on it, and I didn't notice it. Well, it's because I really wasn't intending to do this, but I did it anyways. Nothing a little light sanding can't get rid of. So, that's where we're off to next. So, it's the next day after the last little cutscene. Looking it over, it looks pretty good for a light coat. Couple spots that needed just a little light sanding just because of a small piece of junk, but I think it's okay to actually lay a coat down, except for this. I see one little thing right here, looks like a hair or something got caught in it. Okay. So it's time to finish off this base coat. Do it the sensor band area. I'll let this tack up probably for about an hour. I'll come back, do one more coat just like that, and then I'm gonna put it away for a while. Well, Looked it all over. The base coat is I'm happy with the base coat. So I'm gonna lay down the clear. So using a matte clear. And I'm doing it lightly. Sorry about that. My microphone fell. Okay. Got the wiring. Now I don't need to put too much clear on this coat, just enough to seal the white, because heck, anything white gets dirty so easily. I mean, you may think you have clean hands, then you go to handle it, it's kind of dirty, but if it gets dirty with just flat white, oh, it's really hard to get rid of. This way, from now until we start painting the saucer, if it gets a little dirty, we can clean it off. And I think that's good. So, yep, wrong switch. So I'm going to give this a few days to dry, or a little bit longer. I got to take care of in between then. So obviously the next videos are going to be on pretty much doing the painting on the Enterprise. Most likely going to start on the secondary hull and the deflector dish with the strong backs and the other little stuff that involves those, and work on to the nacelles on its accent stuff like the chiller grills and some of the duck egg blue stuff, and then some of the stuff on here, and then at the end kind of get to the Aztecing, and then the final little detail other paint that goes on top of the Aztecing. So with that, I'm going to conclude this video of the saucer build, and the next section is painting the Enterprise. So go away. I gotta put up Christmas lights for a while.